I'd earned it and I'd worked hard. And, I know this is more than a score, but it probably reflects my thinking at the time, which I think was a bit immature, which was that the score was something that I could basically flash to people to legitimize how clever I am. And I think that showed a big, at the time, very sort of innocent, naive approach to the world, which was that if other people approve of you, then that is really your driving force.
What happens when you leave a school you loved, only to realise that the real learning starts after it's over? Today's guest has built a life full of exploration, creativity and rediscovery, reminding us that success isn't a straight line. It's a lifelong experiment in curiosity. Our guest is James Pattison, writer, broadcaster, creative and founder of Miniature, a podcasting marketing company, but his story starts long before that. In classrooms, athletic carnivals and Year 12 literature, where school felt alive with ideas, humour and possibility. James describes high school as a time when trying new things was cool, when learning was valued and when every day brought a chance to discover something new. But leaving that environment came with its own lessons. Freedom, yes, but also a sense of being unanchored.
So what unique lessons will you learn? In this conversation, James reflects on confidence, discovery and the courage to try new things. Even when you're still figuring out what you want to do at 40. Oh, I can feel that, Laura. He shares how personal success now means being a good partner, dad and friend, and how professional success comes from listening to that inner voice that says, you're good at this, give it a try. Welcome to this episode of More Than a Score.
Nice one.
All right, we ready?
Yeah.
All
right. Everyone, we've made it today. We are in a podcast studio. We are very professional, and opposite me, I have two wonderful people. My usual co-host, Loz, also known as Laura. But for anyone out there, if you do see her on the street, feel free to call her Loz. And importantly as well, we have the wonderful James joining us. Now, I've put down here some different words that I think there's a bit of pressure.
Oh, I'm so concerned.
I've got
You should be.
creative adventurer. You're also a master wordsmith. Now, I know that sounds a bit of an oxymoron, but you're a wordsmith. You are amazing with words, the way you play with them. And Energizer Bunny, producer, communicator, radio and media expert, a dad of 3. So then I also think you've got patience plus. And excitingly, you're a business owner creating podcasts and building them within this wild west of podcasts as everyone works out what they are. But I just think as well, you're just a wonderful, wonderful human who's been able to come here, share a story. And I'm really excited because your pathway particularly isn't that traditional. So, James, it's a pleasure to have you on More Than a Score.
Thank you, Dan. What a great intro. How nice is that?
Welcome.
I feel like thank you, Laura. I'm told not Loz, but Dan's going to make a catch on.
I think so. It's everyone gather around. Just call her Loz.
Yeah, we were just having a conversation about the fact that in my entire life, no one has called me Loz. And yet since meeting Dan, anyone that he introduces to me, I'm now a Loz. So the influence of Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel it is from now on as well. But that is a big intro to live up to, Daniel. So I hope I can today.
Well, look, I think either way, we're going to hear a really brilliant story. And I think the way we usually start, I know I've built up a bit of all the different pathways and different journeys that you've taken, James. But when you think back to those final days of school, with your score, were you happy with it?
Yes. Yeah. I was happy with it for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think it was a pretty good score. Secondly, it was a bit better than I was hoping to do. And thirdly, I beat 2 out of my 3 sisters because it's all a competition. Okay. We're getting deep into my mindset here. It's all a competition with your siblings. And when the morning of getting the VCE results, I called up because you called up the phone number at that time. I don't know if it's done the same now. And I got the score back, and I remember telling my sister, one of them, and her response was, "You bastard."
Did you purposely tell the sister that you beat? Is that what it was?
Unfortunately, she was the one who beat me. The other 2 were a lot more gracious, but the one who beat me thought I hadn't worked hard enough for that score.
Okay. That's really fascinating. So there's quite a few things in that. So there was the school perception of what you should do. Then you're thinking of, oh, this is sort of good enough. And then you beat that, which is really lovely. And then you have this underlying, I don't think we've had the sibling rivalry come out yet with the score aspect.
I did see it when I looked at your pre-podcast thing.
Okay.
The sibling rivalry in brackets was there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, made sure to note that when you sent this form around asking a few little questions to prepare. And I put in there sibling rivalry because it definitely is a thing, even if they say not.
So talk me through a little bit then, because that's really interesting. Yes, we had to call up, or I think there was even the modem connection. You had to go through and wait for it to load, the screen to load, and then it would pop up with a score. So you get the score, you go, oh, this is better than I thought. Oh, yeah, like I've beaten some sisters. So what then was the next step for you? What did you do?
I think obviously it should have been therapy because I've realised within the space of a couple of minutes that this is not normal behaviour.
You don't think it's abnormal, honestly, as a high school teacher? This is not an abnormal mindset.
Interesting.
Amongst siblings, definitely not abnormal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I'm going to jump in because, so more proud, were you more proud or were you more relieved?
I reckon it was a bang on 50-50. I think that there was a part of me going, thank God year 12 is over and I don't have to think about it ever again. That result that brings that relief. But then I was also proud of it. Like I did also feel like I'd earned it and I'd worked hard. And, I know this is more than a score, but it probably reflects my thinking at the time, which I think was a bit immature, which was that the score was something that I could basically flash to people to legitimize how clever I am. And I think that showed a big, at the time, very sort of innocent, naive approach to the world, which was that if other people approve of you, then that is really your like driving force. And that's a one-way ticket to deep unhappiness. So in my later and wiser years, I think I've just come to a bit more of a conclusion to just chill on that front and be happy with yourself.
I think that's a really natural experience when people, like everyone, remember we've spoken before about, well, Laura and I have spoken a bit about like the post-results parties that people would go to. And it was literally about going and telling people the score, like some sort of, like, it's just a ridiculous sort of status thing, isn't it? But also all the parents that we talk to, it's a big thing about like my score versus my kid's score. So I'm really interested in the fact that there's so much going on for you. You were proud. And you also got this message from your sister that it was like, but you didn't seem to work hard enough. And then you were like, well, I did better than I thought. So, but it sounds like school is a really positive experience for you. Tell us about, so the listener sitting there, what was James's school experience like?
Well, you might know a decent amount of it because...
This is true. We should probably say. Sorry, go.
That's right. Put our cards on the table. Dan and I have known each other since we were little kids. We were about 12, 13?
I think 12 when we first met.
And we went to high school together and have seen each other through being absolute idiots, extremely immature little kids, and right through to the incredibly grown and sophisticated adults that we are.
Well, we're very good at pretending to be professional, James.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
So help us say, tell us about that school experience so the person can picture it really clearly.
Yeah, sure. So I absolutely loved high school, like specifically from year 9 to 12. And that coincided with moving from the particular school that I was at from like the junior campus to the senior campus. And I think like one thing that I felt was I remember walking through the school gates every day with this thing in my mind going, what am I going to try today? Like I knew that my parents were paying a lot of money to go to this school. I knew that not everyone had the chance to do that. And I really wanted to try it all and like, I don't know, I was just very conscious of this big opportunity that I had. And I don't know, is it gratitude? I don't think it was even gratitude. I was just excited, just an excitable little kid. So like, it was just like, do you want to get involved in a play this term? Sure, just audition for it. And, what, weird and wonderful sport do you want to take up? Like, sure, try it, how do you want to get involved in the community in some way and kind of do your bit? Yeah, let's do that this week. And I was just so full of, I think, yeah, optimism and excitement as a kid amidst all of the normal teenage angst and all that kind of stuff. And there was something about school as well that, again, I don't know if it was my particular social circle or if it was just a general thing at the school, but like by the time you got to year 11 and 12, learning was cool. Like it was, you know, you're not going to be frowned upon for being a bit of a nerd. Like learning was really encouraged. And I think I loved, by the end, like learning how to learn became really fun.
I'm pretty
God,
sure.
I sound like a dweeb, don't I?
No. There's a shift. Well, I mean, Laura's like such an experienced high school teacher. You would have seen that shift that happens when people go from year 9, 10, 11, 12. Do you want to?
I'm trying to work out when was it that you started to appreciate the opportunity that this school is affording you? Because you definitely do tend to see it more at year 11 and 12. It's like people are like, okay, I've picked the subjects that I want. I'm in control of the learning that I want to do. And so I think that sense of autonomy then creates the legitimacy, I suppose, of the education that you're taking. So I'm wondering when you notice that shift for yourself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of getting me to rewind and look through those stages myself. I reckon what you said about year 11 and 12 is I definitely relate to.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden it was what you were learning came alive.
Yeah.
And I reckon that clicked. Like I could actually see there was like real world application of what we were learning. So I could see it kind of in the world. But then there was also the subjects. There was definitely that degree of autonomy. You've chosen these, so you see it through. Everyone in your class was there because they wanted to be there, apart from Japanese in year 11. Silly, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, so everyone wanted to be there because they've chosen these subjects. But there was also just something like, I don't know if it was the content itself as well that just kind of sang a bit more.
Drew you in a bit more.
Yeah. But then I think I had that experience though, even those earlier like years 9 and 10.
That's where I'm interested because from a teaching perspective, males especially, the boys you have at the start of year 10 are never the boys you have at the end. There's a huge maturity shift that goes on in that particular year. And that's what I'm wondering. Did you notice that? Or was it the subject selection? Or was it literally just the fact that you were so excited by the opportunity of school that you just took it?
Yeah. A lot of things went on, especially in year 9. There was the physical change in campus. So all of a sudden we went from being junior school kids to then senior school kids, which is in a different physical location. And I think that came with a sense of like, you're growing up now. Yeah, I think that psychologically was just like, I'm a big kid now.
Sure.
Also, this probably was not a good idea, but the senior campus had 2 feeder schools. So there were 2 junior campuses that at the prime age of, 14 or 15, these 2 schools decided to every single year merge 14 or 15-year-olds who don't know each other into the one place. And so, day 1, term 1 was an absolute bloodbath. Like I'm talking literal bloodbath.
Right.
There were so many fights. And
can I confirm you were at an
this was an all boys? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Just
Who would
give
have
some
thought?
context to
Who
that
would have thought?
statement.
Yeah. Yeah, it was brutal. There was a lot of blood spilled. And yeah, there were a couple of particularly bad fights where people got expelled because they were so violent. And I think it was sort of also that year was a big process of kids getting expelled. It was like maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, who even knows? Kids got expelled in that one year. So there was a
sort of like Squid Game, not as
I'm literally, you should see me. My eyes are darting around the room trying to kind of understand. I went to an all-girls school. What's going on here? What's going on here? Why is there the need?
Dudes, just idiots. Like it's territorial.
Like a dominance.
Yeah, it was. It was who's going to establish themselves as top dog. And
through violence.
Through violence, yeah. And that was not anything that I got involved with, or I don't think you did, Dan. What's
the really famous musical where there's the the Jets and the
West Side Story. or something.
so
Is that-
picture that, like coming, but less dancing.
I love
that's
it.
what dancing is. Okay. So there might have been some dancing. I think there might have been some break dance.
Yes.
Like, maybe, potentially.
Dan was just like, fight in the auditorium, then ran off. That was you.
I definitely was not me. But like, guys, we're here to talk about James, though. Like, that's important.
It really was, that's quite formative.
I was going to
And-
say it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're not, even though I wasn't involved, I swear, but I was a good kid at school, and in some ways, in retrospect, probably wish I rocked the boat a bit more. But I was
Yeah.
not one of these kids who got involved in this stuff. But it was definitely like, that this is like the dawning of a new age. Like we're well and truly teenagers. We're in this unfamiliar environment. It is like Squid Game. Like, it was pretty confronting,
Yeah,
but
it's
I
pretty
reckon that there was that sort of tied up with all of these really exciting emotions as well. Like, it's almost like this physical embodiment of these crazy hormones that you're feeling and the emotions you have inside. Like, it really felt like a new chapter.
I think so. Bringing our teacher lens from it, Laura. So looking back now, so having worked in, and I've worked in like pretty high trauma settings in schools and then variety of different settings as well. The thing that, and I think it's a really interesting story that you say, because it was pretty full on. That there were big things that happened in corridors, literally people's heads getting smashed against walls. Like it was pretty violent, pretty full on. But what, as a teacher, looking back, what didn't happen is, so you had the merging of boys that are 14, 15, pretending to be, thinking that they need to be some sort of form of like a male, like this real blokey bloke. But the people probably missed the opportunity to bond people. So what they actually wanted was the boys were looking to connect, but it went down a really horrible pathway. And then it was like within, I don't know, a term, 2 terms, people were all like, things got set. So what happened was, we didn't have the teachers and the leaders properly overseeing the way that they could actually bring people together. Like, it was such a brilliant milestone, such a really brilliant rite of passage you could have created. Either way, you're going to get a rite of passage. Unfortunately, this rite of passage in this cohort was a really negative experience.
Yeah.
But I think the thing listening to what you were saying then, James, was, so you really valued, like, you had all that happening, and then we had all the, regardless of the school. So there's going to be times where things, and you said really formative, there's going to be times when there's negative experiences, there's times that are things that are really confronting for you. But you said, and you had such a big smile when you were talking about your experience at school, like you loved it, and you put it in like capital letters.
Yeah.
And when you were talking just then, you said, I really valued the autonomy. So as school went on, you valued autonomy. You loved the idea that you got to almost like specialize, and you were hooked into things that really interested you, and you could start to see how they would connect to your real world.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, for the person that's listening, if I've got my kids in high school, if they're in year 7, 8, 9, 10, what do I want to start to say to them? Well, I think it'd be really interesting to hear, what do you value? What are the things that you're interested in? And trying to help them start to see those connections to school. But I mean, that's just my perspective. Do you think, is that something that you think would help you going back there if someone did something like that?
Yeah, very much so. I think even if I was to take it a step further, there are 2 situations where these 2 memories I have where it wasn't someone asking me what I liked and what I sort of enjoyed doing. There are a couple of occasions where I had 2 people see potential within me and tell me that they saw that potential, and I didn't realize that I had it. So one of them was a drama teacher, and he was like, "You're a really good actor." Like, in drama class, he's like, "You're great. You need to audition for this play that we're doing." And I didn't, and I regretted it for years and years and years and years. I always regretted not doing it. And the other was an aths coach. So I got involved in athletics, and again, it was just like so exciting because I had never done it. So in year 10, the school brought on all these new aths coaches, and amongst them were a couple of former Olympians. And I wanted to do the 400 because I'd heard it was like a killer, and I just wanted to know, could I do it? How far could I push myself? And one of my 400 coaches was just like pushing me in particular. I felt just like he really took me under his wing and pushed me to just be faster and stronger and I remember there's this one day where he took me aside with the head coach himself. I saw a video of him running against Carl Lewis in like the qualifiers back in the 80s at the Olympics. So this guy was the real deal. And
Carl Lewis being the world record holder of long jump, right? And also like a ridiculous sprinter as well.
Yeah. He
won the gold for 100, 200 in the same Olympics, I think.
I think that's right. Yeah, there we go. And he said to the head coach, pointing at me, he's like, he's going to be 800 champion in year 12. And he's like, that's the first I'd heard of it. And he was then like, yeah, I'm going to coach him. And again, that was something that I never took up with him. So there's two things where it's two moments where two people saw something in me that I never followed up on, which in a way is a bit of a souring part to this story. But I think it just shows that there were people around who had the mentality of mentoring you. And it also shows that the things that stick with me are often not my achievements, but the things that I wish I had have done. That was a real boost to my confidence. So even though I never ended up running 800s, I ran 400s. And there was this, made the school team. We ran these big finals at Olympic Park, which was full of just thousands and thousands and thousands of school kids from all of the competing schools cheering. And it was just like the biggest, oh my God. It's like, I think back now, it's like one of the biggest highs of my life. But it was really having these people with you, whether it was that co-curricular stuff, which seems to have had the biggest impact on me, or just in the classroom,
It's really interesting hearing you describe that, because so there's two things where, it's amazing that you get that direct feedback, and then the fact that you didn't follow them up. But what's coming through and listening to some of the responses already is you care about chasing interests. And when I was reading through, like finding out and digging into all your background, your pathway, like words, literature have really rung through. And I remember you mentioning something about a literature teacher.
Yeah,
who really stood out to you. So you just gave two examples of where someone gave you feedback and you didn't follow something. And then you've also got this time where someone was influential and it seems to have had a really long-lasting impact on your whole career.
Yes.
Tell people about that literature teacher.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know where this love of writing and reading and everything came from, but it must have been something innate that I just loved being creative with words. And it was year 12 where first day of year 12, this literature teacher, shout out Mrs. Thompson, who came into our class on day one and tore us to shreds. And I thought, this woman is evil. I think we had a sack, like this first assessment coming up very soon. She decided we were all not ready for it at all. And it turned out that she was not that person at all. She was a real personality, but she was not that dragon lady that she was making herself to be at the start. I think she was just getting control of a classroom full of idiotic boys.
We're like,
Laura's going, I've dealt with that sort of class.
I've
Set
seen that.
expectations, set the norms.
Right. Okay. All right. It's a policy. She went on to be just like, talk about bringing, a subject to life. So for me, she would get up and just perform. Like, she was so vivacious, and someone would be reading out a passage from a novel and she'd just hit the table. It was like, no, with passion. Come on, I'm bored. I'm bored. Read it with some passion. And then she'd take over. She'd be like, she'd read the line and just get right into it like an actor. And so you would have to step up. It's like, if you're reading this, you should be basically just like, this book is written by someone for a reason because it's got feeling behind it. Read it in the same way. That's what I took from it. There was this one day in particular where I think she really, at least for me, she made me feel like an adult, because by that time, as you guys would know, year 12, you're at that precipice of moving into adulthood. A lot of people feel like they're still basically, like, why am I still at school? I'm an adult. And this one day, there was a passage in this book where one of the guys was talking about two people who were about to have sex. And he was skirting around the fact that in the middle of this sentence was the word fuck.
The student was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he get to that part of the sentence and he's like, and then they wanted to, and then she's like, oh, Hugh, all right, fuck. All right, can we just get it over and done with? The word is fuck, and you are an adult, and we use this word every single day. Okay, we good? Go. And he goes and reads it, and everything was cool.
It was a quote, direct quote.
Direct quote.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
Direct quote.
That was a direct quote that Pato did too. So spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, sorry everyone. I should have seen the episode.
Tives ahead.
Continue, Jake.
Maybe I can retake that and just say, can we put
I'll just say that it's explicit. Put it up.
put a language on
Yeah,
this? But yeah, situations like that where it was so funny. Like we're all absolutely cacking ourselves because who were you usually like trying to be in your best behavior in front of, well, often in front of your teachers. And she made it okay. She made it okay to swear. But she was really, for me, she was someone who, she brought the words to life. She brought passion into black and white words on a page. And often, even now when I'm reading, I'll like have her voice in my head. I still remember the day, I think it was our final class before our year 12 literature exam. And she gave us all a little St. Christopher medal. I don't know who St. Christopher is.
Isn't he the patron of like lost things?
Of lost causes. That's why she gave it to Pato.
Oh, right.
I'm sure it's like a loss. I feel like my grandmother had one in terms of like losing stuff.
That's St. Anthony. I know.
Oh,
That's what my nana.
I think
that's
and
in it.
Travellers.
Travel.
Because we were going on. I remember.
Oh, is that it?
That would be right. That
There
would
we
be
go.
okay.
So it would have been a lot more meaningful if I had have remembered that. So
Wouldn't you like
that's mis-
Pattison or something?
oh, this is a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
That's for our bonus.
Yeah.
Everyone.
God,
Subscribe at some
I should also just jump in here. So as well. So Trish Thompson, incredible teacher. She was about 5 foot, tiny, diminutive. We're all like big 17, 18-year-olds. And her doing all of this too. So she had this like, you had a terror in the classroom because she had such high expectations, not because you were scared of her, but because you were worried you wouldn't live up to them. But she was also the person, she greeted us when every single one of us walked through the door to our exam. And she said an individual statement to every single student that walked through. So
that's right.
I think there was this thing from day one. It was like tearing us to shreds, like, no, this is the expectation all the way through. From then on, it was huge amount of support. The person that gave, I don't know, Laura, if you used to give like a mobile number out or something like that, but she used to host like practice exams.
Yep.
She said, I will do whatever it takes to help you, but you need to step up if you want this.
Yeah.
And I remember that was
important.
pretty influential.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. I saw her years later actually at the supermarket. I bumped into.
Did you tell her that she made a difference?
Yeah. I saw
That's
her
good.
and her daughter, and I was like, oh, you probably don't remember me, and she's like, Pato, of course I do. Yeah, year 12, 2003, and then she reeled off all these other people in my class. She's like, how can I forget you? And I've gone. I told her, I'm like, I think at the time I was working at the ABC, and I'd done this. I did honours in English literature at university. I was like, that's because of you. And I was like, you brought words to life for me, and I'm like pursuing a career in it. And it was so nice to be able to just tell her to her face and to tell her daughter. I was like, your mum's the best.
It's pretty amazing. She's my role model as a teacher. So I used to often think when I first started teaching, I'd think, what would Mrs. Thompson say?
That's cool.
Oh, I love
That's super
that.
cool.
That's nice.
Now, I'm really mindful. So to round off that part, because I think it's so fascinating, people hear, so positive, really positive experience. The fact that you not only you got a score better than you were picturing. So, I mean, that's interesting unto itself. You had a family that was really supportive, really obviously like pretty high achieving.
Mm.
You went to a school where you were lucky enough that a group went through where it was like, no, we really expect to learn. And then you had multiple supporters that were taking an interest in you. So I think the next part that we'll move to is starting to say like, so that's a grounding. That's a pretty amazing grounding that you had. I'm really interested to hear more about the pathways like from school, because this is where it starts to get less traditional, you'd say.
Yeah, that's true. I had it in my mind that I would, again, like caught up with being like a high achiever at school and thought, right, let's continue on that path of being a high achiever and prove to people how smart you are by doing law. So, which is really always a great, if you want to make sure that you are really happy in life, go down that path of doing things because you think it looks good.
So you did, just to clarify, you did law because of the score?
I did law because I could. But at the same time, I didn't get into law at the one university that I wanted to get into. So I had it in my mind again. I'm like, I was going to do law at Monash and I missed out by, what was it? It was like 0.25 or something. And yeah, I want to do it here. Again, I don't know why. I don't know why I had law in mind. I don't know why I had Monash in mind. It's just some hang up that I clearly had.
I wonder if it's like a cultural thing from your school, because I think that sometimes in certain year levels with certain teachers, that sometimes there's just this like prestige that we tend to hang on certain things. And I'm interested, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I find it really interesting when I was reading your pre-form that you loved school so much. You clearly had a sense of belonging and understanding in that context. And I actually think it's really common coming out of that the journey feels a bit shaky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like, I knew who I was in that context and I loved it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like trying to find that again.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's very common.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
And you gave us a bit of a clue. So around the score, that means you're within the top 5% or something of a state. So you go from being really successful, successful as in like based on a score, and then you get to uni, jump in, you do a law arts degree at Monash because you thought, well, I should do law. That's the thing I should do.
Yeah.
And then how long did it take you to complete that degree, Jay?
6 years.
How long is that degree?
So 4.
Okay.
I think it is. 4. Yeah. So I did arts straight off. So I didn't get straight into law. So I thought I'll do arts for a year and get a good enough score to transfer across to arts law. And I did that. Loved arts. Like, clearly, of course I did. So I was studying like philosophy and literature and Australian Indigenous societies and like all this interesting stuff. And then transferred to law, and that's where everything went pear-shaped. And so I didn't realize this was a regular occurrence, Laura, because I definitely relate to what you said, you know, knowing who you are in the context of a school culture that you exist in. And it's almost like I'd cracked the code for how to be a good kid in that context.
And I say this only because I worked in a school like that, to the point that a third of our teaching staff are ex-students.
Oh, wow.
For that reason. So I understand that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
like that sense of security. That's what.
Yeah. It's like they cracked the code. It's like, this is the context. And so there are so many of our teaching staff were actually ex-students coming back into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not an uncommon situation.
Because it's a cozy existence. Like,
can be. Thrive in it.
Sure.
Depends what you value, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I always knew that I'm an adventurous guy. So I was always going to break out of it. And there was this, by the way, I don't want to paint too rosy a picture of this school, by the way.
I mean, you said there's a bloodbath at the start, so I don't think you have.
That's right. It's really true. Yeah, just putting it in that way, you knew who you were. And exiting meant, I guess, excitement with seeing what's out there in the world. But I reckon part of me was a bit bereft. It's almost like this really fun and exciting journey came to an end, and all of a sudden we're all off, like gone, without any feeling like any formalities or any closing point, and unleashed on the world. And yeah, I think that brought some challenges.
It's so funny. I had such a, if it's all right for me to share, such a different experience from that, where I remember walking out my first day of, like, I completely bombed in my first year of university. So I went and did landscape architecture, completely crumbled. first day of my teaching career, I remember going, oh, this is the real world.
Mm.
I was so excited with it because it was so different.
Yeah.
Can I go back to one thing that you just shared before, which was, so someone gets a really high score, still doesn't get into a thing that they want. How did you know that you could get into, because I'm thinking of the listener.
Mm.
So no matter what their kids do, you had to go find another way to get to the thing that you thought you wanted. So how did you know that you could go into one program and transfer across? Because I think that's something that sometimes people don't realize.
Yeah, and didn't see it as a failing in any way.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, no, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I think people think, I got my score, but I didn't. And then there's a sense of rejection or, you know, failing in that score, which you obviously didn't have.
Yeah, I actually felt like, you know, I guess I should cut myself a bit of slack. I've been saying I was doing law for all the wrong reasons. That's just in retrospect. At the time, I had it in mind that that was the goal that I wanted to achieve. And I kind of just thought it was a bit of an exciting proposition to try to achieve it. Like, I look back and go, it was a mistake. But at the time, you know, my mindset was, well, first year uni, how great to not have to go straight into studying law at first year uni, because I've heard it's really, really full on. This allows me to focus. Like, I compared transferring between Melbourne and Monash, why I had those two places in mind. I mean, I look back and I'm an idiot, but like, it was impossible to transfer at Melbourne, and at Monash Uni, it was like quite a bit easier. It was maybe like a 10 to 15% difference in your average score that you needed to get. And I thought that was achievable. So then I was just like, okay, to get that score, I'm going to study subjects that I'm interested in. So I think I just was pretty certain I'd be able to do it.
So what would be the key advice you'd give to someone listening to help them talk to either their child that's going through high school or towards this point, or might look for a transfer?
Yeah.
Or if you're a student currently in high school?
Yeah. So I'd be saying it's clearly about where your interests lie is where you're going to get the best marks. If you haven't got into that particular course that you're gunning for with your year 12 score, I mean, that's not the end of the world. You've got the next year that you can apply to a university that has the same course, and you must look at what the average score is that you need to transfer across. Find one that has a score that you think is achievable, that you could get if it's a 60, 70, at whatever it is. Or maybe they don't actually require you to get a minimum score in your first year or second year. It might be that you have to take a couple of different subjects. So pick a course that has those subjects, then transfer across. Like, make life easy for yourself. Don't get caught up as well in what the institution is, which looking back was a mistake of mine. But like, at the time, if I wanted to go to Melbourne University and transfer to law there, I would never have made it. I would never have got in. So there's that. But then secondly, like, I think you have to think about the reasons why you're even doing a course in the first place. Like, why are you gunning for this particular course that you didn't get into? Like, maybe use that gear to think about, is that where your passions truly lie? Because we all know you're going to do the best when you're doing something that you're interested in. So I think there's a few layers to it rather than just like tactical, get your average and transfer across. I think you've got to step back and talk with your kid about like, why.
Yeah. So explore, find out what options there are, if there's any like set requirements or, you know, benchmarks you have to hit.
Yeah.
And then underneath that was, well, I took two interesting things, which is be aware of, well, is this the thing that I want to actually go? Am I interested to do it? And then consider, does it have to be this one place that I go to? What are the other options that can present me?
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that was really useful about university, and forgive me what I'm about to say, university lecturers, but I found university as a really good time to, in a way, almost be in a holding pattern and try out new things. So I knew that my degree was going to be X number of years. And so I basically had an excuse that I am a student, and what I'm going to do while I'm doing this is actually figure out what I'm doing with my life. And So I was able to do the formal part, do exams, either pass or fail them. And on the side, when my friends were doing like legal clerkships, I was doing internships at newspapers. I was doing student radio, or I was like in the very, very, very early days of podcasting, making podcasts with friends. So it was just a really great way to know, like, I do have a couple of rods in the fire. So I know that I've got forward momentum because I'm at university. And I know that while I'm at university, if I don't go down the formal path that I'm studying for, I'm trying out all this other good stuff on the side. And that might lead to something as well. And in fact, it did, because I ended up going down that path of radio. I was DJing at the time as well, because I figured out that you could work for the least amount of time and earn the most amount of money. And so I learned how to start a business. I learned how to deal with clients and how to do a tax return, apply for an ABN, like all that stuff, the practical stuff. So yeah, I'd say to any students listening, or potentially parents, that time post school, if you do go down the path of going to university, can be really, really useful to just road test whatever you could possibly be interested in.
I don't know if uni lecturers would find that offensive. I think the fancy word, I might say it wrong, Laura, but is, so with our teaching degree, I shouldn't say us because yours was a shortened one, right?
Yeah, I did the opposite. I did a double degree in all the content first. So I did an arts and science degree because I wanted to get good on the content. So my teaching education.
And you specialised.
Was short.
Well, so part of the design with the 4-year degree is, I think it's called inculcation. So it's like you learn, but you're also discovering who you are. So part of the idea is, as you're studying about how to teach, what to teach, is you're actually learning what type of teacher are you. So you're developing your sort of style. So listening to what you're saying, as you go, while you're doing arts, you're also trying to work out, well, who am I at the same time? So it's actually like a pretty amazing privilege where over time you get the ability to do that.
Yeah, that's very true. Inculcation.
I think so.
That's the word I meant.
Listener, can you please go fact check and let us know? You can comment and connect with us.
Just say it with confidence, Dan. It's fine.
That's right.
I think that's my life. Loz, is it okay if I jump in for one thing?
Sure.
I'm thinking of building on the idea of interests. So your whole career, it seems, when I was looking through and picking all the different parts up, a real thread. I'm going to try and use Loz's superpower. She's great with picking up threads. So I'm watching her face as I do this. I wish we did video, everyone. Season 2. So law, arts, Monash, honours, English lit. You took 6 years to graduate. You were just deep in it, enjoying it, having a lot of fun. You threw in a year of backpacking around Europe. I think that in itself is a brilliant amount of stories there.
Right.
But then moved through to jumping into journalism. So you took all of that training, those degrees, moved in, worked at Radio National for 5 years. So you were a producer, working out all the different ways that you could actually bring together these different stories. So again, the power of words, bringing them to life, hearing people's stories. You then move into marketing comms at Monash Uni, again, building on all of that. And now this really amazing new adventure, it's called Miniature, your business, where you're focused on helping people do podcasting, share their stories, and it's also about marketing too. So everything that you've now gone and done has been channeling this interest of words, language from the very beginning that you spoke about. My question is, what are the skills that you draw upon the most throughout all of those years?
That is quite a thread.
Laura, did I do okay?
The only thing I wanted to add
Yes, go Laura.
was about your English teacher. And the thing that you talked about with her is the idea of her bringing passion. But I think what underlined the whole thing was the fact that she brought meaning to stories. She brought meaning to words. She brought meaning to what you were doing. And I think that that's what underpins your work as well.
Oh, I love this.
She's good.
Yeah. Well done, the two of you. I'm dropping the psychologist. Just going to hang out with you guys.
That's definitely not us.
I think it's about that.
Yeah.
What's the meaning behind, and as you said, like reading a book. No one sits down to write a book without a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Same thing about a podcast, like the whole thing, same idea.
So what are when you think of that, so what are the key skills? So for people listening, so they can start to get this idea of like, beyond school, what are the actual skills that you need to draw upon for that?
Yeah. I think it's definitely, I think this is hopefully going to pull together some more threads of what the two of you just mentioned there, which is connecting with people, just finding what makes someone tick. Like, is there anything more interesting than that? So I've always bristled when, even back as a little kid, when someone, usually a teacher, would tell me to do something and I'd ask why, and I'd say, because I said so. Like, that just gets my back up. So tell me why. Like, what is the underlying meaning? Why are we doing this? What's the purpose? And if you can explain that to me, awesome. Like, I am there. It's the same in employment, I hate to say, but like, if I'm just told do it because I said so, I'm not going to do a very good job. And I don't mean to do that purposefully. It's just that if I don't know why, if I do not know the meaning or the purpose, I really struggle to see the importance of it. And I know if I look back, that's what has led to, on one side, if I've ever had conflict with anyone, it's usually because of that. On the flip side, my best work has always come when I'm just absolutely invested in, why we are doing this. What is the meaning? So yeah, skills wise to your question, Dan, I think it is just liking people. Like, people are fascinating and everyone has come from somewhere. Everyone's in the middle of some big, strange, bizarre journey that we're all on, but they've either learnt something or they're trying to learn something. So people are fascinating. I think that's probably the underlying thing that I don't know if I think about it as a skill, but I think it's just an interest of mine, is just connecting with people. I just love talking with people. Yeah, and obviously, like, writing is definitely a skill, but I think there's part of what's sort of like a superpower in some ways, but is also a bit of a weakness, is like overthinking things. So I will, like, if there's an easy answer to a question, I'll give you the complicated one. But that just comes from a point of curiosity. Like, I just want to know what's behind everything and everyone.
So asking questions.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's a key skill that you look for, that you draw upon.
Yeah.
And then there's also, I'm imagining when you say writing, do you mean being able to write for specific purposes, for specific audiences? So you adapt the way that you write so it connects with people? Yeah.
So I love the way that I kind of see the written word, and not to be like highfalutin about this. I'm not talking about literature. I'm talking about even just like sending an email to someone or writing one paragraph that is just like, the lead in a newsletter that's going out to a community or something, right? I find the way my brain works is it's like a jigsaw puzzle. And when you have to shift it around, you know that a word is almost right, but not quite right because it shouldn't go there. And the sentence is on the screen runs over 3 lines, but really it should be like 2.5. And, I just find it such a fun thing. And I know when I've nailed it, like when it all clicks together, I'm like, right, ready to go. So that's the thing. Like, wordplay for me is more than just puns. I actually just like toying around and playing with words. And that's what, by the way, I'm a big advocate for using AI. I love using ChatGPT. I use it every single day. But I think that the thing that doesn't account for, it can give answers, but human beings need to create. And I think that's a thing within me, is like, I need to make stuff. So I think that's another element, is just in terms of skills, creating things out of nothing.
We've spoken a lot about defining moments in school. I'd love you to reflect on a defining moment that happened post-school and what it meant for you.
So I think it is definitely traveling in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I took a year off uni and went backpacking around Europe. I went over with barely any money and I got a working holiday visa in Ireland. The idea was just to pick up work along the way.
Yeah.
And that I would just completely recommend to anyone, whether they're currently at school or at uni or parents of, because for me, that was just the most character building experience of my life. 22, doing stupid things.
Yeah.
and meeting, like I went by myself. That was really important to me, was to be able to travel solo. And yeah, being able to meet people on the way. You met people, like when you meet someone, you met them right there and then, and you've both come from a big history that you yourself are conscious of, but when you meet each other, bang, like you just meet in the moment.
Yeah.
And there's no preconceptions about each other. I loved that. It was also immediate. I think what was really great, and again, I don't know if I'm not really giving advice here to people because I think this could have ended up in some dicey situations, but going overseas without much money. So when I say without much money, I had maybe like 800 to 1,000 Australian dollars, and I was set to travel for 5 months in Europe.
This reminds me, sorry to jump in, of a story of my friend. She and her friend were going to London, and to get the visa, they had to show they had $1,500 in their bank account. So each of them transferred all their money into one and took a screenshot, and they transferred all because they didn't have enough money. It's just the things you do when you're young and you think, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Why not?
What could possibly go wrong? Very clever.
Yeah.
Very, very clever. And I'm not condoning what they did, but
They're fine now.
Well, we're condoning adventures.
Adventures,
Yes.
exactly right.
Creative adventurer.
I got the advice from a mate just before I was about to leave, who said, if you ever find yourself in a bit of a dicey situation and you're about to panic, just think this is character building and flip your mindset there. And I mean, it's true. Without things can go severely wrong, okay, but the chances of that happening are very remote. And so it just led to the greatest experiences.
We love to
Maybe
bring
some things.
We love to bring things to life for our listeners. So
Okay.
paint the picture.
Okay.
Go share what you.
Oh no.
Talking defining moments, you're talking about travel.
Yeah.
Is there a particular moment?
Okay, so like hitchhiking around Ireland, I quit this job that I had at a pub, again, because I just wanted to get out and do some fun things. And then, went hitchhiking around Ireland. There were a couple of moments. There's one in particular where I arrived in Derry, and I arrived at this pub. I'm like, okay, I need to get to a backpackers, and I didn't realize that on a Sunday afternoon, basically the whole town is closed. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the pub because they'll know where backpackers is open. And so I go in there, and there's a bunch of old dudes having a Guinness, and I walked up to the bartender, and I was like, oh, kid, point me in the direction of a hostel. And he's like, it's Sunday, it's probably pretty hard to find anything. Basically, you're out of luck. And then I heard this bloke in the corner amongst these old fellas having Guinness. He's like, oh, looking for a backpackers. I know one around the corner. Come have a drink with us first, and then I'll take you there. It's my way home. And basically stayed there with them, had a couple of Guinness, and as we were walking back, he's like, okay, there's one right here. I know the owner. Let's go and say hello. And it was closed. It's like, oh, okay, that's weird. No, there's one this way, and goes, and it's closed. It's like, okay, oh, Sunday. Okay, right. I don't know why backpackers would be closed on a Sunday, but anyway.
People not staying there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was some whole, I don't know.
Super
Really don't know.
confusing.
And as we're walking along, he stops and he turns to me and he goes, do you know where we are? And I said, no. And he goes, have you heard of the Bogside? And I'm like, Bogside? I don't know what the Bogside is. And he's gone, have you heard of Bloody Sunday? And I said, oh, yeah, I know Bloody Sunday. And he said, well, that happened right where we're standing. That's my house over there. I saw everything happen. So he starts telling me about the Bloody Sunday massacre. And we walk for another few minutes and he's like, okay, we've got one more place to check out. If it's full or if it's closed. He's like, my place, it's not a palace. It's just me and my wife. All our kids have left home now, but there's a spare bed there and you're more than welcome to stay. And I was like, thank you. That's very kind. So of course he went along. This place is either closed or full or whatever. And so I ended up back at his place, met his wife, and all night long he was telling me all these stories of protecting his kids from the bullets and the troubles from beginning to end. And the following morning, when I was feeling a bit worse for wear, there's a knock at the door at about 6:30, and it's him all sprightly. And he goes, James, come with me. I'm going to take you on a tour of the city walls. And so he walked me around the entire city walls of Derry and told me, again, the entire history of the troubles. By the end of the day, I was sitting there, his entire family rock up, all these little kids who are now grown up with all of their kids, the grandkids, come around on that day, and we have a big family chat, and they go, "Oh, Dad's at it again, is he?" Like, apparently he's
taking in strays.
Apparently he had a habit of it, and his wife was really pissed off at him the night before and said, "We don't know, this guy could be a serial killer who's staying upstairs." Anyway, but it was like situations like that came about that I was just like open to having an adventure, and nice things flowed from it.
So with all of that, so everything that we've covered, if you think of the fact, loved school, your journey through that, your pathway through that, you then went in, thought you were going to this degree because you got a score, so that's what you should do. Then you realize, actually, this is the area that I'm really interested in. It's led to this career. You've also, during that time, been able to back yourself to go have these really amazing adventures and discover some things by just putting yourself out there. Looking back, if you're a parent with kids in high school, you said you won't give advice, but if you could, what would you try and recommend to do more of to support someone right now?
So there's a risk with saying this out loud because then I'll have to take the advice myself when my kids are older. I think the number one thing that you should be doing is showing an interest in your kids' education, which really is a proxy for your interest in your kids' development and their life. So, they're spending, 40 hours a week at school. It's kind of like the biggest formal thing that they do throughout the week. I mean, you're showing them that you care about them by asking them about what they're studying at school and what their homework is and what they've learnt that day. Like, it's basic. It's a bit naff, but like, tell us one thing you learnt today. Just like one thing. I'm trying to just do that with my kids who are at primary school and trying to word it in a way that doesn't make them tell me to shut up. So a creative way of asking them what they learnt today. The way that manifested for me in my upbringing was that my parents would help me with homework. And I would say to anyone listening that that's not writing the answers for you, but for me, it showed an interest like in me. And so when I was at high school, I remember writing an essay, and before I'd hand in the essay, Dad would have a once over of it. And I remember it coming back with red ink on it, and he wouldn't write the answer for me. He wouldn't rewrite it. He'd just be like, "You have to rethink this part." And he'd come back with some suggestions. Maybe this might be where that sort of idea of a jigsaw comes in. Like, you're using your words, maybe reorder this section, have a little bit of a think about how this flows. And I know that Dad's dad used to do that for him. So that to me, I think was a real vote of confidence that someone cared about me. And I would say that for anyone listening, like, for me, it was, the things that I remember are Dad with writing, because that's the stuff that obviously matters to me now. But I know my parents did that with all sorts of different subjects, and it really just showed they cared. Yeah.
We've heard this a little bit about parents meeting the child's interest. I think that's something that often as adults, we try and connect on ours, but actually if you connect on your child's interest and meet them where they are, because as Dan was saying on our drive up here, kids are egocentric. They are just developmentally, everything's about them. And so if you can join their world, that's a really powerful thing.
That's cool. Yeah, and it takes so much discipline to do that.
100%. Yeah, well, because we've also been there.
Yeah.
And we're kind of on the other side of it and thinking, this doesn't really matter, or this is not that important. But for them, it still is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think there was I don't know about you guys, but the thing in my family, the drilling in of the importance of education was something that was so in our family culturally important. Just like, I think it comes from the need, like a few generations ago of my parents' generation, I should say, of upward social mobility. So education was the way to get ahead in life, and it was the way to get, more broadly for the community they were part of, political power and professional opportunities and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that drilled down into like the way we're brought up was like, I think about doing homework at home, and it's like me and my siblings are spread out over, kitchen tables and desks and mum and dad seem to be walking between all of us and just checking on what we're doing because that's what they were brought up with. And not everyone grows up with that. And I look back and know how lucky I was to have that. But I know to anyone listening who didn't have parents who had that same approach to education, that you can pretend that you're interested in what your kid's studying, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Just set a timer and give them 10 minutes because your kid is going to develop, apart from, there's the education, but your kid will develop a really strong sense of self. It'll also bond you to your child. And if it's not you, then maybe you have a mate who is, a bit of a smart cookie, and perhaps they're the person who can take your kid under their wing and ask them about their education. Like, that stuff just makes your kid feel $1 million. I can guarantee your kid is the one who is going to back themselves in the future because of it.
James, thank you so much for everything you're sharing. Something that we do towards the end is we love to find out what's one, in the shortest way possible, what's one new skill that you're currently learning or that you need to learn?
Oh, good.
And why?
Okay. All right. There was the famous Aussie Rules footy coach, was it Kennedy? Was it John Kennedy? Who said, don't think, do. And I think that's my guiding light, is think less, do more. I can tend to overthink. So just being guided by, like, you've got this, rely on your intuition or your sense of self. Just don't think, do.
So take more action, stop thinking, back yourself, go for it.
Absolutely. Yes.
And that's something you're still developing?
Yes. Yeah, because I have to override there is the operational system within me is all about risk aversion, and and I always have to try to override that. So I think it actually kind of goes back many years, even if when you were reading out what I did professionally over the years, each time I've taken a leap and done something different, it's always been because I've overridden my tendency to overthink and just acted. And if you do that, it's exciting. It's going to pay off in some way, even if you just have a great yarn out of it. So yes, in short, don't think, do.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of More Than a Score. You can follow along at morethanascorepod@gmail.com. You can reach out, share your ideas, share some people, nominate people. I should say, Laura, follow along at More Than a Score Pod on Instagram.
But you can write in at morethanascorepod@gmail.
We would love to hear your stories. Or
Yeah.
nominate someone that's got an interesting story or a different way that they've gone about things. But Patto, James, thank you so much for sharing all your insights. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, James.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks, Dan. It's been awesome.